It's been just over 24 hours since the government launched a political attack on the Labour Party, the Health New Zealand board, the health reforms, and started spinning all these, well, let's call them lies, because that's what they are. So every year we have to spend more on our healthcare because of inflation and because of population growth. That's been really big in the last year due to migration. We have to spend more for our health system to be able to deliver the same service. So, of course, every health budget should be bigger than the one before. That's not in and of itself an achievement. And one of the things we tried to set up when we did the health reforms was sustainable funding of the health system. So the principle that for the health system to be able to plan, to be able to not lurch from one funding difficulty to the next, it should have a funding track that accounted for its growing cost pressures, inflation and population growth. So we agreed that. We published the information for it before the election in pre-fu, so that all parties could plan for what they needed for the health system to go. The National Party funded what was in that estimate, what was in pre-fu, but we know their budget was really tight because they also made those ridiculous tax promises. And then when they were advised by health officials after the election that inflation and migration, their costs were higher than what they thought pre-election, the national government didn't adjust that funding to keep up with inflation, with the cost pressures that Health New Zealand has. So in real terms, every New Zealander has a health funding cut, and the CTU has calculated that it's 4% less is being spent on every New Zealander once you account for the increase in costs with the budget that's just been.
Let me read this from the CTU. This was a press release they put out around the budget. Nominally per capita operational expenditure on health fell by 1.3%, and real per capita expenditure, i.e. adjusted for inflation, fell by 4.5% on current population projections. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So how did you guys mess up so badly to ruin their numbers? Because it seems to be all your fault, Ayesha. Apparently, the blowout from you has ruined their calculators, and we're trying to figure out why you did that to National.
It is a recurring theme that they fail to take responsibility for their own poor choices, their prioritisation of landlord tax cuts and blame all of that on basically anyone but them. But the responsibility is squarely at their door, and they've tried to fudge the picture also by saying that the reforms baked the problem in, but the reforms were designed to create sustainable funding. And the other thing is in the cabinet paper that accompanied this decision to appoint the commissioner, they also revealed that it all came out in the February accounts for Te Whatuora. So how on earth you can impact that from the previous financial year is beyond me. And they blame it on costs going back to 2018, which is ridiculous.
It's the same when they made that strange argument about fiscal cliffs, isn't it? When they said fiscal cliffs, what they were saying is, well, the funding has been programmed out till the halfway through this year, and then it needs to be reprogrammed. For some reason, they sold to the public, and credit where credit's due, they managed to, that the previous government didn't fund enough for the first term of the new government, when who would ever do that? You fund to the end of your term and a bit more, and then it's up to them to refund. That's sort of the same thing, isn't it?
As a political tactic, it's exactly the same. It's blaming the other government, not taking responsibility for their own decisions. But there's also more to it, I think, in this particular situation. They didn't just blame us, they blamed a board of talented people who, whatever you... who have come from a range of diverse backgrounds, who put themselves forward to act in public service for New Zealand and take on a really difficult task of running our health system. They blame them as well, which I think is particularly despicable. And then they've also made cast blame at management, who of course are public servants and can't defend themselves. So all around, I think it's pretty petty, small-minded managerialism from Chris Luxon's government.